Hi, this one's showing you the first coat on a door and the best way to paint a panel door, the order to paint a panel door in. So what you need to do first of all is do these back edges and the top and the side edge. They'll probably only ever need this one undercoat, because I've found that if I put two on and finish it off properly, there's often too much paint on for the door to fit snugly back into its space. So just quickly coat that back edge, the round edge that's going to go in the door jamb, and then do the same around what's going to be the top edge of your door. Make sure you've got the top and not the bottom, because it doesn't need to go on the bottom. So top edge of the door. This is the open grain of the wood, so it will actually soak up the paint quite dramatically, but again it doesn't matter as long as they look reasonably okay. It isn't part of what you're going to be studying. If you're a little pernickety about how beautifully you finish your house, I would perhaps do this door jamb twice, because if you have doors open in your house, that's the thing that shows the most. But I'm sure you don't really see that door jamb, the back of the door, and that top edge very often. So as I said, I repeat, I wouldn't double coat it, I wouldn't put a second coat on. It does make it a bit sticky for fitting. If you're doing a panel door in real life as well as in Mini, the place to start are the panels themselves, and then you do this frame area last of all. This is a bit slapdash painting because it is the first coat, so it doesn't particularly matter what sort of finish I get on it, because I am going to rub it down in between. So you put a fairly generous amount of paint in the framed area, in the recesses, and then you're using your brush to absolutely shove it in all the way around, and use your eye and your brush to make sure you've done these edges and the gaps. There's no gaps and there's no edges. And smooth over the panel and wipe off the bit of the excess paint around the edges and get on with the other panels. I'll need to put it down to do these panels. It's too hard waving it around in the air. So again, a reasonable amount of paint, quite generous with it. But the other thing you have to do after you've finished shoving it in all the nooks and crannies is that sometimes you have to go around and pick up the excess paint. And you just do that really with your brush when it's got all the paint off it, so it's quite dry. You've scrubbed all the paint off somewhere just by simply painting. And you'll find that if you go into all those corners, if you've got little excess blobs of paint in the corners and the joins, you'll find that as a brush, when it's at that stage where you've worn all the paint off it, will actually pick it up quite well, because you don't want big blobs drying in corners and edges. They're almost impossible to get out after the event. You want to keep them as thin as possible, but you do want to make sure that you have got all those edges done. So you have to pick it up and look inside all the edges and go over any that you think just haven't taken up the paint or you've missed a spot. So then you've got, now by this stage you've got your top edges done, your back edges done, the door jamb here is done, the visible one, and your panels are done. Clearly you can't paint both sides of your piece at the same time, because it's got to lie down to dry. So what I do is I run my finger over the back of it here just to flatten any paint that might have gone over the edges. You're not going to be able to clean it off, but if you flatten it down, you're not going to have a ridge to deal with when you come back to do the other side. So back to here again, we're up to that stage now, and it's a really quick finish doing the frame of the door around the rebates. So it's load your brush and one stripe done. Same again across the bottom. Again, make sure if there's any ridges or dents that you've actually filled it with paint. Across the top in this case, I had enough loaded on my brush to do both of those. Sometimes you run off inside a panel, so just go and pick it back up again with your brush and tidy it up. Doesn't matter, as long as your paint is really wet, it won't matter that you go over it a few times. Try not to go over paint that's pretty much drying off, because you will then drag up the surface of it. So there you go, that's and across the middle there. I tend to drag my brush down both sides after I've finished on the long runs, because I want those to be the direction of the paint, if there is going to be any visible direction showing. So that's it, you're finished. That's the door, ready to go and lie down and dry, ready to come back again to be rubbed down and top coated. So the order again is the top, the side, the other side, the panels, and then the door framing part of the panels, the panel frames. Okay,